Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and someone sent me a study which I thought was interesting. I'm going to discuss it for a minute. It involves branched-chain amino acids and maintaining muscle during fat loss and weight training, but it's got some major problems with it. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, do a little crafting, and let's discuss this. Because when I say this study has major problems with it, I've got major problems with the fact that they don't even prove that there was a caloric deficit for the people who are on branched-chain amino acids. They don't even give enough evidence to even prove that they lost any body fat. That's how bad the study is. Like, you can look at the data that they present, even in the abstract, and look at it and say, did these people even lose any fat? They didn't lose any weight. And it was interesting because, they're on a caloric deficit. We didn't get a lot of info on the actual calories, other than we know that obviously they were healthy young men who had already been weight training in their 20s. And that we know that while maintaining a caloric deficit, one group was given 14 grams of branched-chain amino acids post-workout and pre-workout both, and the same thing was done for a carbohydrate group. So basically, 28 grams of amino acids were added versus 28 grams of carbs every day, before and after training. Now, common sense would dictate, if there is such thing as common sense, that obviously, especially if protein wasn't quite high enough or a large caloric deficit, that the group that got 28 grams of branched-chain amino acids got more protein. Branched-chain amino acids are still very useful as protein. We could argue whether they're particularly useful as a supplement all day long, but it's still protein. Protein is muscle sparing. All right, particularly if you're not getting quite enough to spare muscle, your caloric deficit becomes large. I can see that. I would fully expect the group getting 28 extra grams of high-grade protein, in this case pure branched-chain amino acids, to have at least a small advantage in preserving muscle mass, unless the carb group was on a high-protein diet already, reasonably high. So we don't have all of that data. But what we do have, and what's most interesting, is some things that really throw you off. Before you even look at the numbers, one of the things I note is the changes in strength. Both groups gained squat strength. These guys had already been previously training. The branched-chain amino acid group gained a little bit of bench press strength. The other group lost a little bit of strength. Now, that's the telltale characteristic before we get into the other things, because that's exactly what we would expect to see with slow weight loss versus no weight loss. All right? Because the branched-chain amino acid group didn't lose any weight. Some of the people gained weight, some of the people lost weight. There was a spread in the branched-chain amino acid group. But some of them gained weight. Some of them gained weight. And it balanced out. The group as a whole didn't see a change in body weight. Well, that's already a sign of something a little fishy. Some problems with measuring what these people actually ate. They clearly didn't track what they ate. Clearly didn't accurately track what they ate because of body weight differences. Now, normally we know there's been other studies done on this that we know that out of the big power lifts, squats are far less affected by changes in body weight than deadlifts are. Or the bench press is, because the bench press usually is most heavily correlated with your changes in body weight. Meaning, if you're losing weight, most people lose a little bit of strength on their bench press, even if they're on anabolics. If you're losing weight, your bench press tends to go down. Changes in body weight don't affect squats and deadlifts quite as much. So we oftentimes see people who are on a slow cut, which is what this was. This was very, very little changes even in weight loss for the carb group. Very little changes over 8 weeks. They gained a little bit of squat strength, lost a little bit of bench press strength. The BCAA group gained bench press strength and gained more squat strength than the other group did. But that's what you would expect to see based on the body weight, because the branched-chain amino acid group didn't lose any weight. So of course their lifts went up. And of course the carb group lost a little bench press and gained a little squat on a good program, because their weight was going down slowly. That is exactly what you would expect to see based on changes in the body weights. It has nothing to do with the supplementation end of it. Because here's the real problem. There was no weight loss. So they're saying a hypocaloric diet. On a hypocaloric diet, you lose weight. So they're saying that the guys on a hypocaloric diet didn't lose weight in the BCAA group. Well, that's not possible. Here's the thing. All available data suggests they weren't on a hypocaloric diet. Therefore, this conclusion stating that branched chain amino acids can help preserve muscle mass on a hypocaloric diet are not supported by the data. And let me make this clear. This is coming from someone who believes that protein, which BCAAs are a form of protein, believes that protein spares muscle mass. All right, I don't have a problem with the conclusion itself. I have a problem with them stating the data shows this, because it doesn't show this. There's no hypocaloric diet. There's no weight loss. But here's the thing. People will then run with a study like this and tell people, oh, this shows this. This shows this. You need branched chain amino acids. I got to wonder who sponsored this. I didn't find that yet, because that's interesting. But when you get a little further into the data, they started discussing the changes in lean mass and fat mass. But they did hydrostatic weighing as the only thing listed. There's no DEXA scan listed. Now, the amounts that we saw of muscle and fat changes are within the margin of error, of the hydrostatic weighing. So the problem is they haven't actually proven that any fat loss occurred. And in fact, their data doesn't even really show fat loss itself, even if the hydrostatic weighing was accurate, and it's not. A point we need to drive home, the hydrostatic weighing is not an effective enough method to measure the ranges of differences that they're trying to measure in 8 weeks. It's too small of a difference for that sort of method to actually detect. So them stating that the BCAA group gained X amount of lean mass and lost fat isn't supported by the method of measurement that they have. The margin of error on that method is way too large for the scale of numbers they're looking at. Way too large. But even assuming they're right, their actual numbers still don't actually support significant fat loss. Like, we're not talking about, their data is not showing something like an average of a full pound or two of fat loss in 8 weeks, guys. Their data is showing something like 2 ounces of fat loss over 8 weeks. And that's assuming their measurements are even accurate. But there's no change in scale weight. And in fact, some of their test subjects gained weight and gained body fat according to their numbers. So they're saying that they're accepting numbers into the mix to support their data from people who gained weight and gained body fat according to their measurements. Some of the test subjects in the BCAA group gained weight and fat. You don't think that affected the strength numbers a little bit? You don't think that affected the performance numbers a little bit when some of the test subjects in that group on a hypercaloric weight loss diet gained weight and gained body fat? See the problem here? Something else happened here. Why is it that the BCAA group didn't lose any weight? Why is it that some of them gained weight and gained body fat? Did some trickery happen? Were these people allowed to eat extra calories that they didn't track? Were they advised to? Because here's the thing, it's a single blind study, not a double blind. The researchers are actually aware of which group is which. Did they do something here? Was this funded by some company with money and BCAAs, and did they tell these guys to eat extra food? Because they didn't lose weight, and they didn't even lose body fat. Whereas in the carbohydrate group, when you go look, their scale weight went down. And their body fat, according to the measurements, even assuming the measurements are accurate, they lost dramatically more body fat than the other group. Yeah, they're saying they lost some muscle mass, or lean mass, but you lose lean mass, it's not even muscle on weight loss, by the way, guys, or you lose water weight too. But without DEXA scans, we can't even try to determine how much was water versus muscle. So they don't even have enough information to step back and say, okay, well, how much was fat and how much was muscle, how much was water? Because the lean mass could include glycogen stores and water loss. And that's the other significant thing too. Technically, people on more carbs will tend to have more intramuscular water. Yet these guys lost weight. Again, kind of supports the notion of further data that there was no caloric deficit, there was no hypocaloric diet for the branched chain amino acid group. I mean, it's absurd because, again, it's trying to show something that's not there. You know, if you wanted to look at the data and try to draw conclusions, because we don't know all their calories, if you looked at the data and wanted to draw conclusions, I could look at their same data and draw just as absurd of a conclusion as they did from it. I could say that branched chain amino acids cause fat gain. Now, can they cause fat gain? Probably not. That's kind of absurd. But some of the people in the branched chain amino acid group, while in a hypocaloric diet, mind you, gained weight and gained fat. That's not possible in a hypocaloric diet, so the only explanation would be that the branched chain amino acids cause you to gain fat. See the problem here, guys? They didn't accurately track the calories in these people. And in fact, I was really shocked. The one sample meal plan we got was for a day of eating for one of the guys was 1,604 calories. Now, who in the hell, who's an active lifter, who squats and bench presses and everything else, goes on 1,600 calories as an active, healthy, weight training male in their 20s? How did these guys not lose more weight than that? That doesn't even make sense. The only meal plan day we got was calories that were so low that they're dramatically lower than I would put any healthy male on trying to lose fat. I wouldn't put an active healthy male on less than 2,000 calories for fat loss. And so if that's the case, 1,600 calories, why didn't all these guys lose like 8 or 10 pounds? These guys should have been losing a pound or 2 pounds every single week if they're eating calories like that. So again, this is just totally fishy. It's an absurd study, and I really hope no one takes this study and tries to show that it proves anything, because this is so poorly done as far as tracking their food. Obvious discrepancies with what this data actually shows when you look at it closely, what it suggests versus their conclusions. And they didn't even have an accurate system of measurement put into place, hydrostatic weighing. I mean, come on, guys, this is absurd. But you know what's going to happen? You're going to see companies that have a financially vested interest in BCAAs are going to run up and grab this study. They're going to grab this study, and they're going to use it to support their products. You watch. And I promise you, Civation and Lane Nordstrom are going to be right at the top of that list. Watch and see, because it just came out this week. A brand new study. I think it's a brand new study. I could be wrong. Maybe I read the year wrong. Might have been 2016, but I thought it was 2017. But you watch, these guys are going to run with it. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.